Okay, I build a lot of copters, and I got a lot here to build. And it's not like I build them specifically for somebody, but sometimes I do. Most of the times I just pick up the frames that I like and the items that I like, and I get to test them all for about a week and a half before they go away. So some of them are like consignment. They want a certain color or whatever. But I do it for everything. I do it for Spektrum, Futaba, the TBS Crossfire, and I dabble with the FR Sky, but I don't play with it much. So, one of my clients wanted to know how I bind my Spektrum receivers, and there's two ways I do it, and most of the time I do it the easy way. The other way is in the PC. So let me show you the way I do it the easy way. Alright. So you have your radio set up to a model, your new model. And let me do that. I probably should have did that first. Okay, so we got our controller set up to a new model, and you really don't have to do anything other than that right now. Okay, so I'll turn it off, and that's all set. Next thing I do is I use, and depending on what brand you're using, Spektrum would use this brand, this a certain receiver like this that's PPM that has all the channels, and then Lemon has their brand with all the channels, and Futaba has its S-Bus and all of that, and here's a PWM PWM Lemon with no pins, and you can solder the pins to it. So what I have here is a ESC, and it doesn't matter, what size it is. We're going to use this in our toolkit, right? So we have the ESC, but the ESC has to have a BEC on it, okay? That means it's got to have 3 wires. It's got to have power. It can't be like all the ESCs you use for your multi-rotors and stuff, Like here's a 10 amp DYS, right? It's only got 2 wires coming off of here. Here's BLHES. It's only got 2 wires. It doesn't provide 5 volts. And again, this you might have laying around right now, So put your XD60 connector on it. And then what I do is I plug it into the throttle of a standard receiver that has the satellite out, right? So we'll plug this in to the throttle with signal going out. Then you plug in your bind plug, right, into where it says bind. Then you plug in the extension cable to the satellite, and that'll go in here like that, and then into your satellite receiver. Let's see if this will work. This is the only one I have laying around, but this is a Lemon satellite receiver decased. I ripped the antenna off. I ripped the whole antenna mount off the board. I'm hoping I can repair it, but we'll see. Let's see if it works. So, okay, let me find a battery. I know there's one here. Here we go. We got a battery. So, again, we have the satellite receiver, the regular receiver, the bind plug in the bind port, and the throttle in the throttle port hooked up to this ESC with no motor, right? Okay, here we go. We're going to plug it in. Okay, now this one should be blinking too. Where is it? This one's probably dead. So let's throw this in the garbage and we'll try this again. Hold on. I got another one, but it might be dead too. Here it is. Alright, let's grab it and try it. Let's unplug the battery first. Okay. Then we're going to plug in the satellite receiver, decased. Then we're going to plug this in. Okay. So there we are. Your satellite's blinking. Everything's going. Super sweet. Then we're going to get our radio. And if you read the manual, the radio says to go like 3 meters or more away from the subject when you do it. So what I do is I put the whole radio underneath the table, right? Hold the bind plug or the bind button on your radio and then turn it on. And if your radio don't talk to you like that one did, wait a long time. Okay? Mine said it was complete, so I'm done. So now, that receiver is bound to my radio, right? I'm going to unplug the battery. I'm going to unplug my receiver. And then I'm going to plug it into my copter. Check it out. I'll just do this for good lookings. Let's see if we can do it. Pull that off. Pull that off. And here's my copter all ready to go. Right? And here is the receiver already bound to my controller. So now I don't have to do nothing in clean flight or beta flight or race flight to bind my receiver. You understand? So this is all bound up and ready to go. Got me? Sweet. I wanted to just make it clear. I'll do it one more time with a whole different one. Let me throw, this is mine that I used to do it all the time. I'm going to throw it in my drawer. Right? Then, do I have enough parts out to do it? Here. I'll have the parts out. I'm going to do it one more time for you. But we'll do it with this one. This is out of a wing. Out of one of those FT Aero wings that I built. Okay, so we're going to plug this into the receiver. And what airplane guys do when they use this is so they can get the receiver farther out, you know, out of the fuselage onto a wing, somewhere there they can get better reception. That's what this satellite receiver was first made for, okay? Was to get this out of the airplane. You would put this into the airplane and hook all your servos up to it, but then the antenna wouldn't reach out of the plane. So then you'd come up with this satellite receiver, right? And you'd plug in said satellite receiver, and you'd run this out of the airplane out onto a wing where you can get better reception. Again, there's supposed to be 2 antennas on here, but I ripped one off, okay? You know, like this has 2 antennas. This should have 2 antennas, but they're gone. So you'd put this out on the wing. Okay, so here's the wing setup, all right? We're going to do this. Let's, we're missing something here. This is not plugged into the throttle, and there's no bind plug. Okay, so here's a bind plug, and no, that's not a bind plug. Where did I put the bind plug? It looked like a bind plug, but it was wrong. Alright, here's the bind plug. I'm going to put it in. We're going to power it on. If I can get it to sit for you. Here we go. Okay, oops. Okay. Now I'm going to put my radio under the table, or like walk 3 meters away. Okay, there we are. We're bound. Get it? Here we go. We'll do it one more time, except this time you can hear it right up here. Ready? I'm going to turn off my radio. And this one just says it, so.
Binding. Bind failed.
The bind failed just when I want you to hear it. See how I told you you can't be this close? See how the bind failed? You can't be this close. People don't get it. You got to be farther away. So again, under the table or walk 3 meters away. Here we go. We're going to try it again. Now listen closely. You see that? I had it under the table. Lots of thick stuff that it had to penetrate. And boom, there it is. So that's how you bind your satellite receiver. Now in my next video, I'll show you how to bind via clean flight to the same satellite receiver. Spektrum now has what is called an auto bind receiver. It's a satellite receiver, but what it has is auto bind. So I'm not exactly sure how many seconds it is, but after being powered for so many seconds and it not receiving the signal that it's asking for, it will go into bind mode and start flashing like the one we just shown here where it was flashing. This one will automatically, while connected to your flight controller or whatever it's connected to, automatically go into bind mode, which then you can bind with your transmitter to it. Okay, so you have to remember that though when you turn your transmitter on, to have your transmitter on first, then turn this on so that it binds to your transmitter every time, right? So let's say you turn this on and you didn't turn your transmitter on, and then after, let's say this, after 10 seconds this would go into bind mode. So let's say 1, 2, 3, after 10 seconds then this would go into bind mode, and you're talking with your friends and you turn your radio on, it's not going to bind because this thing is now waiting for you to send it a bind signal. Got me? So these are cool auto bind receivers, but you got to turn, after you're bound to it, you have to turn your radio on and then power up your ship. So remember that. There's some cool receivers out there where they're auto bind. You don't have to go through the CLI or go through what we just did to bind it, which really is not a hassle at all. And I'll show you next on how to do it through the CLI.